Well, hello, welcome to the channel. My name is Johnny, and you're watching Hillbilly Modeling. And finally, we're going to get some painting done. But this is what we're working on. This is our Russian heavy tank, JS-2, model 1944 by Tamiya in 1/35 scale. So, this is mostly going to be painting, but we do have something to take care of. That's going to be our tow cable, and they have given us quite a bit, so if we make a mistake, we should be fine. So let's go ahead and take care of that tow cable first. Well, 2 tow cables. We'll take care of those first, and then we'll prep everything for painting and shoot some paint.
All right, let's take a look at our instructions here. Somewhere we have tow cables. There we go. So that's step 11, kind of backtracking there. So we have to make 2 of these. And here you can see that Tamiya has given us a scale. So they're 100 millimeters long. And luckily for us, we have plenty of cord that they've given us here. Now sometimes if, you know, the material is kind of frayed or you got loose ends and stuff, it's better to put a little bit of CA glue on it there, let it dry, and then cut it off, you know, to keep everything together, just like we did on our last build, the Liberty truck, when we was doing our canvas rope there. But I don't think we need to do that here. We're going to use a pair of scissors to cut it, and it should cut it pretty clean. At least I hope it does. So we're just going to line up our I'll keep wanting to call it string, but it's our cable. And I'm going to use a pair of tweezers there to get the right length and snap that off. And it did kind of push it out and fray it a little bit, but we can just twist it. Give it a little twist there, and I think we're going to be okay. All right, that's good. Just have to make a second one. Now we're going to be using medium CA glue for this. This is Starbond's medium CA glue. And for our cable ends here, I'm just going to put it in the little slot that they have for us to put our cable in. And then we just, if I can get it to, it's not cooperating. Maybe I should have went ahead and put CA glue on the end, but I think we'll get through with it. Maybe if we just lay it down. There we go. We're just going to lay it down there and use our tweezers to insert it. And then we just push it down into the CA glue there. And this being a fibrous material, even though I think it's nylon or something akin to it, it'll just soak up that CA glue a little bit. And then over top of it there, over that joint, we'll just add a little bit more of that CA glue. And that should fix it permanently for us. Shouldn't be a problem with that. It shouldn't come back out or pull out. We don't want it to pull loose, especially when we start painting or installing it. So then all we got to do is do the same thing for the opposite end there. And as you can see here, I have those openings on the same side. So they're going to be facing towards the vehicle when we actually install this. That way you won't see it. So we made up our 2 cables, and I kind of got to thinking about it. It's like, how are we going to paint this? Because this cord, our cable, is really flexible. So I just used a little bit of wire here and some sprue from the kit itself, and made us up a little jig there. And I did use some Tamiya mask tape there to keep those wires from sliding back and forth. You don't want that to happen, you know, while you're trying to paint these. And we expect to use the airbrush for that, and we don't want to be blowing that stuff around. So with our cables all made up, next thing is to disassemble our vehicle. Now we did not glue our external fuel tanks on, so those we need to pop off, and then we need to take our all of our road wheels off. Now they have those poly caps in there, but some of them are kind of stubborn. So I'm using my thumbnail here to hold on to our road wheel arm and kind of separate those and pull them off. We don't want to be breaking anything at this point. That would probably not do well for us. So in order to paint these, I'm going to use some cocktail sticks here for our fuel tanks. They do have a small locator hole in the bottom of them, which really helps to insert that. And then I have the tapered dowels. You guys will probably see me use those quite a bit. Very useful for our drive sprockets and our road wheel sets as well. And so we'll get all of those taken care of. And I did cut off just the very tip of the cocktail stick for our support rollers, because they have teeny tiny little bitty support rollers in there. And we also need a good way to hold on to our turret. So I've got a large clamp here. It's just an electrical clamp, but it works good for this. And we'll just put it right on the kind of the turret ring on the inside there. And that should hold it securely, and we'll be able to paint everything without actually touching the turret. So next up is to do some priming. So I'm going to use this Vallejo German Panzer Gray, which is a water-based acrylic. And I like using the water-based stuff because it's not a lot of fumes, you know, and it's just easier on the lungs and the eyes. And we're going to thin it out with a little bit of that airbrush cleaner or airbrush thinner from Vallejo too. I said cleaner, but okay. So this is what it looks like when we get everything primed up. So this is just the start of our painting here. It gives us kind of a blank canvas. We've covered up all the stuff, the PE and the little weld seams and stuff that we did on the turret. And so everything is kind of uniform. Now we are going to spray everything this color. Everything. Road wheels, fuel tanks, all the little pieces and hatches and tracks, everything. So it kind of keeps everything kind of, you know, in the same scheme. So yeah, so we're going to paint all of that up. So next up, we're going to do some pre-shading, and I like to do pre-shading. We're just going to use this white. Now this is craft paint, so it's no big deal if you know, we waste a little bit of it, but we don't intend to. It's very inexpensive, and I do still use the same Vallejo thinner that we use for our water-based Vallejo paints, since this craft paint is a water base as well. So here we're going to do a little bit of pre-shading. Now you can see I'm catching all the high spots on the actual upper hull there, and then for the other panels, and you know, like the fenders and the top of the toolbox, we'll just do a little bit of center fill there. And you don't worry about being super neat with this. You don't have to be. But I'm catching all these edges here that would probably kind of reflect sunlight, you know, more so than the other spaces around it. Now when it comes to flat areas here, we'll just do a little bit of center fill there. And that's going to help lighten up what our base color is going to be. So for you guys that's been watching the channel quite a bit, you know that I'm a fan of pre-shading because I don't have to be super accurate here. And if I make a mistake, it's easily corrected before we start adding our top color, which is going to be the Russian green. And if we make a mistake or the airbrush acts up on us and we get a big splatter, we can go ahead and feather that out with the base dark German Panzer Gray and go back at it there and just fix it, which is much harder to do once you start applying your true color, what you want the vehicle to look like. So we need to go ahead and take care of all of our other items here. We're going to do the turret, and I'm just going to highlight the top of the barrel because that's where the sun is going to hit it the most. So just the top side of the barrel, a little bit on our muzzle brake, just like that. And as you can see, it doesn't have to be super accurate. And then we'll go ahead and catch these, I guess I'm going to call them cheeks there on the front of the turret, because those are going to reflect a lot of sunlight and probably catch most sunlight there. And we'll just go around the turret and catch those edges there a little bit. Just be creative when you do this. The top edges, where the top plate of the turret meets the sides, going to catch that all the way around. And as you can see, the pattern that I'm following is what's going to actually reflect sunlight the most, and that's kind of what I'm going for. And then we'll take care of some lines here, especially at the weld seams a little bit there, kind of break up the flatness of the area there on top of the turret, and any high spots. Now, the way this turret is shaped, we've got these large curves, and so we're going to highlight those as well. Just hit it with a little bit of that white. Yeah, I know it looks a mess, but that's okay. And it's got this nice little bump out there on the side of the turret, so that should look good. Now, when it comes to our drive sprockets and our road wheels, we'll go ahead and just hit the centers of those, because those are the items that are protruding, sticking out the most from the side of the vehicle. So we're going to highlight those as well. And we can't forget about our external fuel tanks. We'll just catch the top of those. And then anything else like hatches and things like that. If it's a flat piece, just do center fill. So this is what we have. I know it looks like it's a mess, but that's really, really going to work out good for us, I think, in the end. Now, for those louvers on the engine deck there, I just kind of hit those at an angle just to highlight the tops of them. And this is what the turret looks like. Nicely modeled up. And there we have all of our road wheels and drive sprockets. And next up, we're going to try something different. This is red rust. And we're going to use that over our exhaust, where the exhaust comes through the armored deck there. And these are armored exhaust tips, I guess is a best way to actually describe them. And we're going to paint these up with that acrylic paint, red rust, and that is craft paint. And I'm just going to go around and just square it off there. And I know it seems a little premature to be doing this, but it's just something that I really wanted to try, and we'll see how this works out for us. So we'll get a good coat of red rust on these. And with them all painted up, that's what they look like. Not very interesting, I know, but I kind of have an idea that I'm gonna go with. We'll see what happens. So what I want to try is a little bit of hairspray chipping, and this is Tresemme here, firm control. So we'll see how that works out. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of, I think it's called decanting. Correct me if I'm wrong. We're just going to spray it into the cap here for it and get a little bit of hairspray liquid, and then we'll just pour that into our airbrush. And since hairspray is water soluble, it won't be a problem cleaning that out later on. And we'll just take that and we're going to spray that over the those exhaust tips there that we've already painted up, those armored exhaust covers or whatever they are. So I get a couple of passes on it there with the hairspray. So the ideal here is when we put our top color on that we'll be able to chip off and maybe leave some of that paint on there. Try to change how it looks a little bit. So we'll see how that works out. All right. time for us to shoot our top coat, and for that we're going to use this Vallejo Russian Green 4BO. I don't know what 4BO stands for, but that's what we're going to be using, and I've got a lot of it, so I'm not mixing my own color at this point. We're just going to use that and going to thin it out for the airbrush, and that is the color before it dries, of course. But we're going to have total variations and stuff because of our pre-shading. So off to the paint booth we go. Now, since we have used pre-shading here, we're just going to do light passes. Now, for the underside, that's going to be dark, so I just need to get the color on underneath, and kind of helps to raise the our gun tube there to make sure that we got any area that could be visible covered in paint. And then we're going to just start doing a light coat around the entire turret. And of course we're going to do everything else in the same color. But as you can see, I'm not concentrating on any one spot. I'm just kind of going over the vehicle here, turret in this particular case, and making sure that I just get the paint on. So we're going to get it on there. And as you can see, all those highlights that we did with our pre-shading are starting to fade out a little bit. And that's kind of the effect that we want. As we keep going over the entire turret here and the gun tube and everything, we're filling in the color. And of course, that dark Panzer gray is going to give us dark areas, and the white that we did with the pre-shading is going to give us lighter areas, and it's starting to look pretty good. So we're going to keep going on around the turret until we get the type of color opacity. Is that even a word? I don't know. But yeah, we don't want to concentrate anyway too much in one spot because we don't want to obliterate all that pre-shading that we did there, because that gives us the highlights that we want to actually come through the paint. Now we're going to do the exact same thing with the lower hull. However, I did pre-paint the lower hull before I started this video clip right here, because all of that's going to be in dark and it doesn't really matter that much. Sunlight doesn't normally hit down there, so and it's the same method around everything here on the upper hull. Just trying to be sure that we're not going to be wiping out of our pre-shading by laying on paint too heavy. But we do want our green color to hit just about everything, so we need to change our angles quite often there as we keep moving around and painting everything up. So one thing to note is that we're going to do the same thing with our road wheels and drive sprockets and hatches and all everything else except for the tracks. We're not going to paint those green, but yeah, just hit it. And if you do 2 passes on the hull and the turret, do 2 passes on all the other stuff, and then go back and keep developing the depth of your color until you get the look that you really want. So just to kind of reiterate this, you do need to spread that paint around. Spread the love. That way, as you paint everything, make sure that you integrate, the road wheels and everything into your painting passes, as well as the turret and your hull. Because if you forget about those little parts, then maybe the I want to say color unity. Is that what I'm looking for? Well, something like that. But keep unison. We want to keep everything in unison. So here you can see where our pre-shading is paid off. It looks pretty good. I'm really happy with that. And the shape of this vehicle really lends itself to different methods of pre-shading. So if you haven't tried pre-shading, give it a try, because I think you're going to enjoy all these different color variations that you can get with it without having to do post-shading. And if your luck is like mine, which is usually bad, if I try post-shading with an airbrush, that's when the airbrush wants to really screw up on me, you know, and I get a big blob of something that I don't want. So here we're just comparing the contrast between the turret and the hull, because we kind of want those to kind of match up. So since we've got all of our base color on, we're going to try a little bit of hairspray chipping here, and that's where we put the hairspray over top of those exhaust tips there. So my idea here was to just remove kind of a splotchy little bit of the green there, and with hairspray chipping, because acrylic paints are really porous, they will allow the water to reactivate the hairspray, which allows the paint to release itself from the surface, which allows us to do the hairspray chipping. So that's kind of how that's supposed to work. So the first thing I do is I just lay down some water on it here and just allow it to kind of soak in, and I'm just kind of chipping away at it with the brush very lightly. I don't want it to come off in big sheets or anything. We want kind of a speckled look, you know, just hints of the green paint left behind. That's kind of my idea anyway. That's what I planned. However, that's not what I ended up with. Big surprise there, huh? And I think it's because when I put our rust color acrylic paint on there, maybe I didn't let it cure long enough, which I only let it dry like 30 minutes or so before I sprayed the hairspray on top of it. And I think that acrylic paint really absorbed the hairspray, which made it start to come loose from our primer coat, which is the German Panzer Dark Gray. So I just decided to kind of go with it. I switched over to a little bit stiffer brush, you know, and started working it there. So we got a little bit of that gray coming up through it. And, well, you know, I think maybe it's a happy coincidence, because I think it's going to work out for us. So I just keep chipping at it and playing with it here, because, you know, in the long run, if it doesn't look right, we can always repaint it and just start over. So yeah, we're going to kind of go with this, and as you can see, most of the green has come off of it. And that really wasn't the plan, but after it dried, and acrylic paints will do this if they are a little, you know, rough and flaky looking. Once they dry, they will sink back down and adhere back to the surface. And that's kind of what we got going on here. So probably, to be honest with you, I think it's a pretty good look. So I'm kind of stoked about how it turned out, although it was not in the plan for it to look like that originally. And I had thought that, you know, I was going to have to come back and add some black pigment and stuff like that. But now most of the green is gone except down on the lower edges. But, you know, I can live with that. I think that's okay. So we're gonna go with that. So now we're going to do a little bit of post shading. So I took our base color, which is on your right, and I added a little bit of white to it and ended up with this lighter green. And when you do your post shading, and here we're just doing, I guess you call them accounterments and things like that, bolt heads and what have you. You don't want that color to be super bright, you know. It kind of has to fit in. So I just added just a little bit of white at a time to our mix, and ended up with this lighter green. And we're going to use that for all of our bolt heads and any rivets and certain edges and what have you to help bring these items more into view. You know, when you're talking about modeling and you're talking about these very small details, if you want them to be noticed, you have to do something to make them stand out. And this is one of the ways to get that to happen. And another way, of course, which we are going to use on this model as well, will be panel liner. So I'm going to go around the entire vehicle, and we're going to do all of these little bolt heads, and there are quite a few, although not as many as was on our M31. That had quite a lot.
Okay, so I just went ahead and stuck a fuel tank on there. So I did also do the highlights on the straps there for our external fuel tanks. Also did the carry handles that you can see there on the ends of the tanks too. And then of course all the little bolt heads and all that. I don't know if you guys can see that very good, but yeah. So with all the bolts highlighted for us, and of course we did the bolts around our ball machine gun there on the rear of the turret, and the 4 little bolts up here, and you know, just little bitty details like that can really help the model pop, you know, and come to life. And, oops. Try not to lose anything there. And the bolt heads here on our drive sprocket. And don't forget about the back side too. I don't know if you can see it or not. It's kind of dark. But just remember that that's going to be seen a little bit there at the rear of the vehicle. And where the drive sprockets are going to be, you know, you can see the bolts. A little bit of extra detail there. So it takes a little time to do, but it's not hard to do. So it's pretty kind of relaxing for me. So, oh yeah, and of course we did all the little bitty bolts there on the covers. We did those too. Focus. I have trouble focusing too, so me and my camera are pretty much the same. All right, so that will do it for this part. Look next Friday for the next part. So we're going to continue painting. We got some detail painting and stuff to do, and yeah, I think the paint scheme that I'm going to pick out is going to be the Berlin one. You know, with the white stripes. You know, I kind of like that look. So we'll do that. So special thanks to all my subscribers. Because of you guys, I keep making these videos. And if you like this video, don't forget to give it a like. And if you're new to the channel and I've earned your subscription, go ahead and subscribe. Really would appreciate that. So I guess until next Friday, you guys stay safe.